If you've been dreaming about a place where life feels a little more intentional, discover the Canopy in Sebastopol by City Ventures. This new community offers solar-powered homes, surrounded by mature trees, nature preserves, and walking trails, with a vibrant local downtown, renowned wineries, and the Bay Area all within easy reach. Enjoy low-maintenance living, refined design, and built-in eco-friendly features that make everyday life easier. Start your next chapter at the Canopy by City Ventures. Visit cityventures.com. That's cityventures.com. Looking for a home that keeps you connected to Silicon Valley without the usual barriers to entry? The Gates in Morgan Hill by City Ventures is a walkable neighborhood near downtown restaurants, outdoor trails, and an easy commute to the Bay Area. It's a small town setting with access to major career hubs. Every home is all electric with buyer-owned solar included. With limited availability, now's the time to take a closer look. Discover your new home at cityventures.com. That's cityventures.com.
I'm Kellie Raspberry. This is American Heart Month. Heart health has become a priority in my life since my incident last summer, which happened live on the air during the Kid Craddock morning show. Fortunately, I didn't have a cardiac arrest or a heart attack or anything of that nature, but I do have a cardiologist in my life now, and I've actually got an appointment next month. I'm keeping up with my appointments. Everybody needs to keep on top of your own heart health. But as part of American Heart Month, we wanted to really emphasize the importance of taking care of your heart and what to do in an emergency situation when you see someone in distress, either suffering from a heart attack or cardiac arrest. Because believe it or not, those are two separate things. And I think there's a lot of confusion surrounding that. So joining me today to clear up some of the confusion and to share some really fascinating stories of survival, I've got with me Karen Springs, who is a certified CPR instructor, and I also have a cardiac arrest survivor, Tara Yell. And I don't know where to start with first, but first of all, welcome, ladies. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Hi. Mrs. Yell, I understand you're taking a break from your school schedule because you're a teacher, right?
Yes, this is our lunch time, so it's kind of a brunch time.
Oh, and a break for you. What grade do you teach?
I teach first grade.
First grade. Oh, that's such a sweet age.
It's the best. I've taught first grade for 19 years.
Oh, I'm looking at you and you don't even look like you barely graduated college yourself.
No,
so
that's kind.
You have actually had a very frightening experience. You take your little vacation, you take a little day to go to a water park when you suddenly had a cardiac arrest. Can you walk us through your experience? Because obviously you had a happy ending. You're here to talk about it now. But tell us about that day.
Yeah, so we were at a water park for our last day of a trip in Burleson, and we had been there less than an hour, and I started feeling very poorly. I had had a few instances before where my heart rate would spike and drop, and so I was following my heart rate on my watch, and I saw that it was doing that. And I told my husband I wasn't feeling well and that we needed to leave, which must have been a red flag for him because I'm usually that tried and true. I'm fine. I can get
Mom
through it.
plows through.
Yeah, like, don't worry about Mom. I got this. And so we were heading out to leave. And I told him, I was like, I feel like I'm going to get ill. I'm going to run to the restroom real quick before we leave. And my husband, I ran into the restroom. My husband made the life-saving choice to ask my daughter to run in after me. And while I was in the restroom, I collapsed because I went into sudden cardiac arrest. So my daughter ran out. Luckily, we were at a water park. Y'all, I have not been to a water park in like a decade. But we were at a water park where everybody knows CPR. And so my daughter ran out to get help. Two people came. One person dialed 911 while Taylor, my lifeguard hero, provided hands-only CPR. She did CPR on me for about the 15 minutes that it took the firefighters, the amazing Burleson firefighters, and EMS to get there. And she did it the whole time as if she was doing it on her mom, which is what saved my life and saved my brain. The firefighters got there and they had to shock me a few times. They put a Lucas machine on me, which provides chest compressions at a consistent rate while they're able to do all of their other magic. Then I was put into the ambulance. The ambulance had to shock me again because I crashed again.
Oh, my goodness.
From there, I was taken to the ER where I crashed again. And I crashed again.
Oh, my goodness, girl.
It was like, I think they said it was between 6 to 9 times I crashed. But once I was in the CV ICU and that final shock, I maintained my heartbeat. And so then I was put on life support. The battle there was, is Tara still there? Does she have a brain injury? So they got my body working. I'm young, I'm healthy. I was 39 at the time. And so I was on life support for 6 days. I started waking up around day 6 and 7. And so the battle, or their question was, is she there? Can she blink? Can she follow directions? And so from there, I was in the ICU for about 20 days. I did some rehabilitation there. We saw that I did have brain function. And miraculously enough, I have little to no brain injury. I'm a first grade teacher. I was able to come back to work 161 days after my cardiac arrest. I stayed right after I was in the ICU. I was at a recovery place for a week. And then I was back home, and for 3 months, I was doing a day program there. So they helped me build my strength. I had to learn to speak again and walk and write and all of that. But thanks to the CPR that lifeguard gave me, and the amazing work of the fire department when they arrived, I had brain function.
That is
and that's
amazing.
something I never thought about for CPR.
Mm-hmm.
That now I understand it's so much more than just pumping the heart. It's keeping the oxygen in the brain. And my family, we are all CPR certified now. We get CPR certified every year. So
that's amazing. Now, you said that you started feeling sick that day, but obviously you had been seeing some warning signs leading up to that you maybe ignored or disregarded as just, I don't know. You said you felt sick, maybe indigestion. What were the signs that you ignored before you had your full-blown cardiac arrest?
I had a few symptoms. It was mainly I would get really dizzy, and I would kind of feel like, oh, I need to sit down. It had escalated to the point where my vision would kind of, almost like some people get before a migraine, where it's kind of tunnel vision, or it blacks out and then comes back. I had gone to a cardiologist 1 month before my cardiac arrest, and I told them something's wrong. And I told them these things about my heart rate spiking and getting dizzy. And they told me it was probably stress and anxiety, that I was young and healthy. They asked me about my caffeine intake. I drink 1 cup of coffee a day, and they said, you should really cut out that caffeine.
That's shocking, isn't it? Because we hear that so many times. JC on our the Kid Craddock Morning Show, he's had incidents pretty much his whole life, and every time he goes to the doctor, it's the same thing. It's maybe caffeine related. It's maybe stress related. So when you go to the doctor and they send you on your way, you think, well, maybe it is all in my head. Maybe it is something I'm doing. And so it took this near tragic experience for them to take you seriously. I think the important message here is you've got a little voice telling you something's wrong. Even if the doctor's telling you you're fine, it's just in your head, you're just going through menopause or whatever it is, caffeine. That if you've got that little nagging voice, go get a second opinion, a third opinion, until you exhaust all the avenues. Did you have a history of heart problems in your family?
No.
Nothing. So that's another reason why you'd be like, well, I'm going to a doctor and he's telling me it's, caffeine or stress. Well,
I was like, I did what I should.
Yeah, you did what you
went
by going to the doctor. And I think that's so upsetting for me to hear, but I'm glad that we have a happy outcome here.
Yes.
And I know you've got just a few minutes because your kids are going to start piling back into the classroom, and we'll have Karen talk a little bit more about the the CPR experience. Is there anything like a message you'd like to share to anyone who maybe is feeling a little off and they haven't made the appointment to go to the doctor? Any words of advice or encouragement you can give?
Sure. I know it's hard to do, right? We're busy. Maybe you're a mom or you're in business, life's going on and it's hard. But I think you know how your body feels and you know how your body should feel. And so first, definitely schedule that appointment. Go say what's going on. We'll hope that you have one of those amazing doctors that listens and is a problem solver. But if you don't happen to stumble upon a doctor that's a problem solver and wants to work with you, it's so important to advocate and to continue telling your story and speak your truth of, I am healthy. I don't drink a lot of coffee, whatever it is, this isn't right. I shouldn't feel dizzy like this. And just to not feel like a burden or anything like that when you're trying to advocate for yourself, which I think is so easy for us to do.
Well, I'm so happy you're here to tell that story. I'm going to let you go if that's all right, because I know you've got to get back to class, and then I can talk to Karen Springs about more of the technical stuff. But your story is fascinating, and thank you so much for sharing it.
Yes, sure thing. Thank you so much for having me. It was nice meeting you.
You too.
Bye,
thank you. Bye-bye. All right. Well, Karen, one thing that I still kind of get confused, you hear about people in the news, they died from a heart attack or they died from cardiac arrest. And I'm thinking, well, isn't that the same thing? But actually, those are two different things. Can you explain that? Because I think a lot of people are in the same boat as me. I thought it was the same thing.
Right. So they are two different things. And, as a layperson myself, I'm not a doctor, but I do have an understanding of the difference between a heart attack and a cardiac arrest. So the way I like to think about it is a heart attack is a plumbing problem. You've got, clogged arteries, you've got something like that. It could be a small percentage, it could be 100% blockage, and you're starting to feel some symptoms. And so if a heart attack persists, it can stop your heart, but it's different than a sudden cardiac arrest, which is really more of an electrical problem. Mm-hmm. And so something has gone wrong with the way that your heart is beating. And so it's either quivering or stopped beating altogether. And it's not effectively pushing blood through the system. And so the medical professionals that Tara talked about being able to come and, they have lots of extensive procedures that they did both from the time that they arrived at the scene through the days that she was in ICU. Those things treat, the more robust issues, but they don't have a chance to do that if you haven't had CPR those first few minutes that her lifeguard and lifesaver provided. If they don't get then when EMS arrives, when you get to the cath lab, when you get to ICU, you don't have a beating heart to work with, and you certainly don't have the brain function.
I never thought about that until she said that. It makes sense. You need the oxygen for your brain as well, but I never put two and two together.
Right. That's really what CPR is for, is every minute that your brain goes without oxygen, you lose about 10% of your chance of survival, and your chance for being there mentally decreases. And so the fact that she had that lifeguard that first 15 minutes really made the difference between her ability to fully recover the way that she has.
Now, if someone is experiencing, like if you just happen to be at the water park and someone collapses, CPR works whether it is cardiac arrest or heart attack, right?
Right. So
you don't have to know the difference as a person.
You don't have to know. So if their heart attack has gotten to the point where their heart has stopped, or something else has happened that has caused their heart to stop, either way the response is the same. You call 911 and you start CPR, which is mostly pushing hard and fast in the center of the chest. So what you're doing is you're acting as an external push to push that oxygenated heart through, or oxygenated blood from the heart to the brain and the other organs. And every time you push down, you're oxygenating, you're doing the job of the heart. And so that's why, for the first few minutes, hands-only CPR is usually okay, because if you watched me collapse right here, I'm breathing. So I have some oxygenated blood in my system. If you're pushing hard and fast on my chest, that that oxygen is getting to my brain. The lifeguards, they know how to do certified CPR. They were providing breaths, and they really made sure that 15 minutes she had as good a chance as possible for a full recovery.
So it's important to call 911, do the CPR. Now, if the person, like, you don't keep doing it if they like recover in some sort of way.
Right. If they wake up
out.
If they wake up or they're obviously breathing, you can stop and just monitor them until the advanced
but as long as
medical
they're
help.
still unconscious, you just keep those compressions until EMTs arrive.
Right.
All right. Well, where do people go to get certified? Or there's got to be classes offered at hospitals, the Heart Association. I'm sure you sponsor a lot of these. I know my daughter actually had to take a class in school, and from what I understand, that's now a requirement.
Yeah.
In a lot of school districts that you have to have CPR training in junior high or high school.
Right. So in Texas and in probably 40 other states across the United States, practicing CPR on a mannequin, really learning how to do it is something that is for high school graduation requirement. So in my kids go through RISD, they take it through their health class. So you have to take health before you graduate from high school. Sometime during health class, they got some time on a mannequin and learned how to.
I think that's incredible.
Right, because we want to build that next generation of lifesavers. If you are listening today and you're interested in learning CPR, you can go to heart.org/nation for our nation of lifesavers. And there's information there about how to get on and learn and take a course with an instructor like myself, or you can also buy a kit that sends a mannequin to your house and you can watch a video and you can learn CPR that way. It's not the same as the feedback that you get from an instructor, but there's a couple different ways to learn CPR. There's even a video, just 90-second, 60-second videos that you can see how to do hands-only CPR and learn a little bit of information.
But if you want to be certified, you need to go every year.
So yeah, most of the time the certifications last for 2 years, and so you get a card when you complete a course with an instructor like myself. And I think that's, as a CPR instructor, I think that's a great way to learn, because you get a coach who was actually going to walk you through, like, this is how it feels. And a lot of times you'll hear people say, I didn't know it was, I had to push that hard. I didn't know how it was going to feel. And it makes you that much braver and more confident, because that's really what it takes, is you have to be brave to step up in an instance like that. And so anything we can do to be prepared and save a life, I'm all for it
too, because if you do have to take the course to graduate high school and then you never think about it again until 20-30 years down the line, and it's like, in that high stress situation, it's like you have to have that muscle memory. And so it's the keep going back and getting refreshed on how to do it properly. Because is there a chance that you do it the wrong way and cause more damage? Is that a fear that a lot of people might have?
Well, it is a fear that a lot of people have. And I don't want to sound, uncaring, but they're dead. They're dead. Their heart is stopped. So, yes, I want you to do quality compressions so that they get the outcome that Tara has. But bad CPR is better than no CPR. So get on the chest, do something. And Tara's rescuer was a lifeguard, so he had been trained so he wouldn't have those hesitancies about women. But a lot of times folks are nervous. Either they think women don't have a heart problem, so they don't jump in and assume that it's cardiac arrest. They also are afraid, like, I don't want to take her shirt off. I don't want to, I don't want to bare her chest. I don't want to get in trouble for touching her breasts. And that causes women to die. They don't get CPR near as often as men. It's something around 40% that they don't get CPR as often. So if 90% of cardiac arrests occur outside of the hospital, and you only get CPR about half of the time, and you take another 40% away of a woman getting it, like, they're really not getting CPR as often as they should. They're being left to die or have terrible brain function because no one will touch them in that time frame.
Because you're afraid. It's a high adrenaline situation, but like you said, a man might be afraid of doing something offensive or wrong.
Well, even a woman might be afraid. I mean, you don't know. And I mean, I will tell you for sure, I would rather you see my boobs, then
They're on the side of seeing my boobs.
I would rather you see my boobs and be
Yeah.
alive to tell about it than you protect my modesty and come to my funeral. Another thing that keeps people from acting is they're afraid they're going to get in trouble. They're going to get sued. And every single state in the United States has a Good Samaritan law. And it protects you for, if you were trying to do good and you had positive intent, then you're not going to get in trouble for doing it wrong, even if the person comes back and doesn't have full brain function or they don't survive. You're not going to get sued or get in trouble.
Because you tried.
Because you tried. And so we really think that, saving a life is more important than and so we want to take all those worries away.
Now, while we were talking, Karen, we had someone else join me on our little video link. This is Dr. Anezi Uzendu, and I hope I said your name correctly. Not only are you a cardiologist, I understand you are also a cardiac arrest survivor.
I sure am.
Dr. Uzendu, can you tell us a little bit about your story? I mean, this cardiac arrest, I'm assuming, happened after you already became a cardiologist. You didn't become a cardiologist because of that.
Yeah. I was already down the pathway. So I was 25 years old at the time. I had finished most of my medicine training, and I just finished interviews to start my cardiology training. So I already knew I wanted to be a cardiologist. And then a week before I found out where I'd actually go to train to become a cardiologist, I had a cardiac arrest. And, you wouldn't expect that for someone, I was 25, very healthy, had played basketball my whole life. But, that day I had suffered a cardiac arrest. But fortunately, I thank God people there knew CPR, there was an AED available, and all those important things during that critical window of time before EMS gets there happened, right? And so the reason why, we're having this conversation today, and I got a chance to kind of listen in at the very end there, but I echo everything that was said. It's so important for people to act quickly to help save lives like mine.
Now, you experienced cardiac arrest, which we learned is very different from a heart attack, and you studied the heart. You had all the book knowledge. Were you ignoring some of your symptoms that led up to this event?
I think there was definitely one symptom I had that I always make sure that people now know. For cardiac arrest specifically, right? Like the heart stops beating, and different from a heart attack in which there's a blockage in a blood vessel that's supplying the heart, and maybe that part of the heart might be weak and may not be pumping as normally, but the heart's still pumping. You're still getting blood flow everywhere. And those symptoms are a little bit different. But with me and my cardiac arrest, there was one time I was playing basketball, maybe 3 or 4 months beforehand, where I passed out while I was playing basketball. And that should always be a warning sign. Anytime someone loses consciousness during a sporting activity, that should set, some red flags should go off. That should raise some alarms, and that person should be evaluated. I kind of chalked it up to, I did a 24-hour call the night before. I was dehydrated, whatever the case is. But who knows? Maybe I wouldn't have had the cardiac arrest had I gone in and, we've been able to locate what was going on. And so passing out, really for any reason, should probably be evaluated in ER, particularly if you pass out or lose consciousness while doing activity. And then also chest pain or shortness of breath during activity is usually a cardiovascular sign of some sort. It may not necessarily mean that, it's a syndrome that may lead to cardiac arrest, but it still could be a harbinger of other cardiac diseases and should be evaluated.
Well, I'm so glad you're here to share your story.
Thank you for making, this is so important for your listeners and your viewership. So thank you so much for prioritizing this message.
Thank you so much. Dr. Uzendu, cardiologist. Thank you. Bye-bye. Now, Karen, that was interesting, that he also, I'm a young, healthy man, and he was also a heart doctor who should have recognized all the symptoms and then dismissed them in his own self. And
I love Dr. Uzendu. He's such a wonderful volunteer. I mean, as he said, sometimes there's some obvious symptoms and sometimes they're not. If that first passing out could have been the most serious thing, and it could have been the first time. And so that's why it's so important to have someone nearby who's going to call 911 and start CPR. And then he mentioned, and Tara had talked about that we haven't discussed yet, is get an AED as soon as possible.
What is that?
So an AED is an automatic external defibrillator. And again, if you go back to my example where it was an electrical issue, a lot of times the electrical shock of the AED will reset the heart. And so these are very user-friendly devices that are found in a lot of places, a lot of public places, but more and more businesses or athletic venues are starting to have them available.
They actually talk you through it. Like the machinery actually talks you through it in some cases.
It is. They all do. They all walk you through. They all function, just a little bit differently, but they're very simple. You plug them in and it tells you what to do. So the device will say, plug in pads and connect them to the, place pads on the chest, and the pads have pictures on them. So it shows you where to put it on the upper right chest. I'm having to do left and right in my hand. The upper side of the right chest and the left side of the abdomen for an adult. And so, you put them on and then you clear so that it's not reading your heart or rhythm. And it says, it'll tell you, this is a shockable rhythm and this is something I can do something about. Push the button to shock them. And if it works, then they start to wake up. If it doesn't, it tells you resume compressions, and it gives you that beat, which is 100 to 120 beats per minute that you need to continue compressions. And so it talks you through it and it will help you. And then in about 2 minutes, it'll say, clear, let me analyze. And you stop compressions, it'll analyze again. And so for that 15 minutes that Tara was down, if they had an AED, it would have been helping them shock her so that when EMS arrives, they could do what they need to do.
I think that's important. They are becoming more and more commonplace in buildings and schools. That's how a friend of mine, Julie Kuhn, she collapsed at a school and 2 students ran in because they knew where the defibrillator was, and that's why she survived. So in addition, they say when you go into big places, you look for the emergency exits. We all need to know where those defibrillators are, the AEDs, and so we know if there is an emergency situation, we know where to go grab them.
Yeah, I hope that they become as common as fire extinguishers, and everybody knows the same way call the fire department and get the fire extinguisher, call 911 and get the AED. It becomes very commonplace.
Now, Karen, you are a CPR instructor certified. Is there a reason why heart health is so important to you? Do you have a special connection for heart health?
I don't have a dramatic story like Anezi or Tara do, for sure. When I was growing up, I wanted to be I was a Girl Scout, I was a lifeguard, and I wanted to be able to help people. And so when I got a job at the American Heart Association, one of the perks is that they let us take the CPR class from our gifted instructors for free. And so that was the first thing I did as a new employee was sign up, and they were like, you're a little too excited. You're going to have to become an instructor yourself. And so that was 5 years ago, and I've been teaching at every opportunity since.
That's wonderful. And there's no way of knowing how many lives you've saved, or are you able to keep count?
So, I don't teach full time, but no, you don't always know who saves the life that
it's like
you
a
taught.
Ripple.
Right. And so, and I get to do programs like this.
We'll know when we get to heaven. The Lord will say, you know how many lives you saved because you did that? That's what I look forward to. Well, I appreciate it. Is there anything, like I always want to say before I let someone go, if I didn't ask a question to lead to something you wanted to make sure you express today to the people listening?
So, of course, I want to say thank you to Anezi and to Tara for sharing their stories, but they wouldn't be here if someone like you didn't take the time to learn CPR and be ready to save a life. So go to heart.org/nation, take a look and learn CPR in any of the ways that we offer it, and be ready to act in an emergency.
Yeah, be ready to act, and also pay attention to your own body. And if something's not right, get it checked out. If you don't get the answers you want, find another doctor, get a second and third opinion, because that could also save your life. Karen Springs, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And I hope somebody listening today is inspired to go out there, take that CPR course, because you might be the one saving a life. And I can't imagine a better feeling to know that you were a hero in your lifetime. But remember, all month of February, it's American Heart Month. Be an advocate for your own health. Get all the information and support the American Heart Association. Make a donation, because they really are doing some great things to save lives. Thank you again for being here, and thank you all for joining us today.